Oh, hey there! I haven't formally introduced myself to you. My apologies. Who is this random person you're watching online? Who am I to talk to you about how to find your passion? Well, to start off, my name's Gloria, and I am multi-passionate. I have tried many things throughout my life. The key word here is tried. Let me start with this. You can't find your passion by just thinking about it. Imagine you've never tried sushi or pasta, but then you keep thinking, I wonder if I prefer sushi or pasta. Well, just go try both sushi and pasta and decide for yourself. A lot of you have written to me that you don't know what you want to do in life. You don't know what you're passionate about. It's actually very common, especially when you're young. You know why? Because you haven't tried enough things. I sound like I'm 50 years old, but I personally find that to be absolutely true. So in today's video, I want to share with you my experience in finding my passions and what I learned throughout each stage. And hopefully this will give you some inspiration to just go out there and try things. When we were kids, we didn't know what passion meant, but we had curiosity. And we were more likely to follow that curiosity because, no one would tell us we can't make money from that. The very first curiosity I had was drawing. My mom told me I was doodling before I even learned how to walk. And throughout my early childhood, I followed that curiosity and took some drawing classes and even went on to participate in a lot of kids' drawing contests. I kept drawing here and there until I was 15 years old, and at that point I already knew I was kind of artistic, but drawing was more of a hobby for me. I did it because it was fun and I was somewhat good at it, but I never thought of pursuing art professionally or something. Around the same time, I also discovered there was this thing called a fashion magazine. I remember I would cut out my favorite outfits from the magazines and make collages on a notebook. Yes, that was how we used to make collages, on an actual notebook, not on a digital device. Anyways, that probably explains why I have a fashion channel now, but more on that later. If drawing was something I knew I liked, singing was something I knew I loved. At the age of 15, I randomly discovered that I could sing, and everything changed. Okay, it wasn't that dramatic, but what happened was I randomly decided to sign up for a singing competition at my school. I had never had any training in music. My dad was good at karaoke and that was about it, but I ended up winning that competition, which I did not expect at all. The experience was so captivating that I decided to ditch drawing altogether and started learning singing. I pursued singing pretty aggressively. It was like falling in love hard. I felt more passionate about singing than I would ever feel about any person. Anyways, I competed in a lot of singing competitions, big and small, because I love the feeling of performing on stage. And since I am multi-passionate after all, I also explored dancing and started a blog at the same time. Yes, I had a blog in 2007. I'm the real OG, although I shut it down 3 years later. Throughout high school, I completely immersed myself in my artistic pursuits. I didn't care about school, I didn't care about boys, it was just me and my passions. But as I was about to graduate high school, I had to face reality for the first time. My parents didn't want me to go to music school because it wouldn't lead to a promising career. So we made a compromise. If they sent me abroad, then I would study business, like a good Chinese kid. And that was how I ended up in Canada. But passion is something you feel very deeply. It doesn't just go away like that. My passion for singing didn't fizzle out just because I moved to a cold-ass country. After my first year in university, I decided to take a gap year and go back to China for a national singing competition held in Beijing. At that point, my parents already knew they couldn't stop me. I was hell-bent on it, so they were very supportive. And so I packed my bag and moved to Beijing. I was this young girl chasing her dream. That was the craziest year in my life. It deserves a video on its own. But long story short, the singing competition I was involved in turned out to be borderline fraud. There I was. I took an entire year off to finally pursue my singing career, and it was completely shattered. They say when one door closes, another window opens. It's true, at least it was for me. I was at rock bottom, I didn't know what to do. But fortunately, I got to know a very well-respected music producer through that competition, and he offered me to be his translator and assistant. Of course, I took that opportunity in a heartbeat. Through him, I met a lot of well-known musicians and pop singers. I got to see firsthand what the music industry in China was like. I should feel excited. It was everything I had dreamed of for 5 years, and I was so close to it. But to my surprise, I felt numb. I realized I didn't want it anymore. Maybe it was because the previous experience I had really took a toll on me. It might not sound like much now, but it was too much for my 20-year-old mind. So I decided to come back to Canada to finish university, and that marked the end of my pursuit to becoming a professional singer. I wouldn't be exaggerating if I say I just got out of a 5-year relationship with singing. That was the longest relationship I had ever been in with anything or anyone. And the quickest way to get over that breakup was to find something similar. Please don't take that as actual relationship advice, it will be horrible advice. Anyways, I decided to take theater as a major. My passion for singing may have died, but my passion for performing hasn't. But since my parents sent me here to study business, we had to make another compromise. And so I took economics as my other major. I briefly talked about this in my How I Learned English video. The drama program wasn't what I expected at all. I thought I would just be acting, but it turned out the program was heavily focused on classical literature. You know, the Shakespeare shit. I did get to act, but obviously it was all theater acting. Actually, I really wanted to study film acting, but there just wasn't such an option at U of T. I still kind of liked the theater acting though, but deep down I knew I didn't love it. I just didn't have the same kind of enthusiasm compared to my classmates. But I chose it, so I had to power through. It was kind of okay. It wasn't filled with passion like how it was with singing, but it was fun. So I stayed in that relationship for many years. The main reason I stayed in theater for that long was because I got involved in a multilingual theater production in which I got to co-create with my personal story. There was just a difference between someone else giving you a script versus creating your own script. And it was the only production that made me feel less like a marginalized actor in the Canadian society. But that's a topic for another day. Throughout my university years, I also picked up dancing again, tried modeling, and hosted shows. Anything but singing. Graduation. The event that crushes your soul and forces you to face reality. After I graduated university, I had to look for a job. You know, a real one. I sent out my resume like throwing shit on the wall and seeing what sticks. I got an interview from a major bank. Well, my economics major did help after all. I went to that interview, got the job, and started my corporate grind. And just as I expected, I hated my job with all my passion. If you want to know what it's like to be passionate about something in a negative way, just watch me on my job. My favorite word at work was well, due to the nature of my job, I had to talk to a lot of clients on the phone. And some clients were just so irritating that I wished I could rip their heads off. Anyways, the only thing I liked about my job was my colleagues. They were probably the only reason I managed to stay in an office environment for 2 years. If you look at my previous experience, I just wasn't built for that. I was so miserable during that time that I needed to find some sort of answers. It was precisely when I started reading a lot of personal development and entrepreneurship books. I remember I would run around the office preaching to my colleagues some new ideas I had or some new concepts I learned. It was honestly the only thing that made me feel alive. And at the same time, I also started singing again. I know, shocking. I started singing jazz, a genre I had always wanted to try. And when I finally decided to quit my job, I invited all my colleagues to my jazz performance at a jazz bar. That was my way to say farewell to the corporate world. I quit my job without a real backup plan. That was very risky. I do not recommend it. I had a lot of ideas before I quit, and I did dabble in a few of them, but I couldn't commit to any of them because I was too afraid to commit to something that I'm not absolutely passionate about and feel trapped again. One could say I had the fear of commitment. I felt so lost and paralyzed, I decided to take a break and go back to China for a vacation. Back there, I took a trip to Bali with my best friend. I documented the entire trip, and I realized I really enjoyed telling a story through my video. After I came back from that trip, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna pick something and start doing it. Making content was something I had always wanted to do, and I did enough research to know that if you want to break through the noise, you need to find a niche and bring value. So what niche should I focus on? Well, good thing I didn't pick travel because, COVID. I've always liked fashion, but I fundamentally don't agree with the overconsumption promoted by a lot of fashion influencers and the fashion industry as a whole. That was when slow fashion came to mind. What if I can do something I love and do some good at the same time? It's not something grand, I'm not fighting world hunger or something, but it's the least I can do. And so I committed to posting a slow fashion video once a week, and it became the channel you're watching right now. I got very lucky. I grew over 200,000 followers on Bilibili within a year. I couldn't even imagine this when I first started. I worked hard, but I can't deny that luck played a very important part in it. If you've read enough entrepreneurship books, you would know there's this term called pivot. And I feel like that's what I'm going through right now. I feel like I've been in a niche for a while now, and I'm ready to expand. Like I said in my How to Stop Giving a Fuck video, my goal, or passion in this case, is to make my highest form of contribution. And I'm still trying to find my way, so to speak. Now I know this is not a linear story. I didn't just pop out of the womb and knew what my passion was. But through trying different things, I discovered my passions, and also what I'm not passionate about, which helped guide my direction in life. I'm still trying to figure things out, but at least now I know I'm moving towards the right direction. I think what will really help you find your passion is to first think back on what you were curious about as a kid. It doesn't mean you have to become that thing, but it will give you a clue. I had a curiosity about drawing. I didn't want to become a full-on artist, but I knew I was somewhat artistic. Then I found my first passion, singing. It's something you just feel in your gut, like you can't live without it. I went all in, but years later I had the painful realization that it wasn't what I wanted. But at least I wouldn't be on my deathbed wondering what if I tried that singing thing. Then I tried acting and realized I wasn't as passionate about it as I had hoped for, at least when it comes to theater acting. But I learned some very valuable skills that I could apply in real life, for example, when I'm making these videos. Then I got into the corporate world. I knew I wouldn't like it, but I tried it anyway, and yup, hated it. But the good thing that came out of it was that it gave me enough push to make some important shift in my mindset. I knew if I wanted to do something meaningful, I needed to combine what I like and what I'm good at to bring value to the world. And now I'm a content creator, and I haven't been happier in my life. Do I feel lost and frustrated sometimes? Absolutely. Sometimes I want to throw my camera or my laptop out the window. But you know you're truly passionate about something when you're willing to struggle through the pain, and the next day you're back at it. And to be honest with you, you guys gave me so much motivation on this journey. I feel very passionate about connecting with you and making content that could potentially help you. And that's where I'm at. Before I go, I just want to say, finding your passion is like finding true love. You won't know what you really want until you've tried enough things. In the wise words of Nike, just do it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.